if you turn to this one here, and this is the one that's on exhibition around the library, council, down the bottom of Tamworth Street, and also going into Regan Park. Now, what it shows is all these little lines here, all this colour coding and everything like that. And it's got all of these things like Lady Cutler Oval, it's got, you know, the turf, cricket options and all that sort of thing. But there's no legend. Now, I think that's a problem, and it's probably been overlooked because people are giving feedback to council because council want it, and I think it's a great idea. But if we don't have the legend there, how can you make a proper informed decision? That's my point, because I don't think you can. So I'd like to raise that issue. Maybe it was just overlooked, but I think this could really be improved on. And I'd like to request to council that if they could make this one here, just photocopy that, cover it with laminate so that it's waterproof like the ones that are at the parks now, and attach it there alongside those other plans, because I think that would solve the problem. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well within your 5 minutes. Well done. So we still have time left in public forum now, so if there's any other speakers from the gallery that would like to come forward. Sorry, Pete, you were too slow to stand up then. Again, just state your name and I'll give you 5 minutes as well.
David Eslick, Wellington. I've spoken to Richard Ivey, the stormwater drain that runs under Simpson Street down towards the Bell. The sides of the drain, above the drain, are heavily covered in growth, and a lot gets washed down the drain. The gutters in Simpson Street, where your water from Simpson Street enters the drain, they're all blocked, and I was just wondering whether council can do something about it. Also, Richard has got photos.
So just to clarify, public forum is not designed for question and answers. It's designed to put a statement forward. So asking a question there, that's not the forum designed to actually give answers. So we've heard your statement around the stormwater, and you've still got time to keep talking if you'd like, but we're not going to answer your specific queries in that process. Thank you. Okay, again, we've still got time left in public forum, and I did see Pete just start to jump up before Dave got up. So, Peter, I assume you'd like to say something as well. And again, you know the story. State your name, please, and you've got 5 minutes. Thank you. Sorry, Peter, just press the button there so it goes through. Thank you.
I'm not addressing any particular item. I think you guys have had enough from the concerned citizens of Dubbo already. I just was wanting to mention that there was a motion to note the petition that was presented to council, and I just hope that that petition does carry weight, in a sense, in any future considerations that council does make. I sort of helped out with the petition, and it was, just talking to the average Dubbo citizen. So the 994 people that did sign the petition, it wasn't just a particular niche group in Dubbo. It was the typical Dubboite. I sort of think that the petition is a way of them expressing their view. So that's sort of all I wanted to mention. So at some point there's the motion where you note the petition, but I sort of hope in some sense, it's not just a fleeting notice of it. That's sort of all I was wanting to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Duggan. Once again, we've still got time left and we've got one more person left. Ms McDonald, do you wish to come and speak as well? Just to fill out the gallery and... No? No, you've had your time, sorry. You only get one chance at public forum. Sorry, does Margaret want to speak as well? Oh, sorry. Oh, my apologies. You're tucked away behind, my apologies, Di. You're tucked away behind Lewis's chair there and you had your head down, so I only saw the top of your head, so I made an incorrect assumption. Sorry, Di, as the last person in public gallery, did you want to speak as well? Same again, state your name, now that I've got it wrong, state your name, and you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Matthew. You're not the only person who's called me Marg, so that's all right. I'll answer to anything except late for dinner. Yes, so some of us are concerned citizens of Dubbo and the LGA, and I would like to say beyond that, some people know that I'm a pretty keen lover of nature and I've travelled to various parts of the world enjoying that. Western Europe, in the Pacific, in Southeast Asia. And one point I like to make is that the socio-economic significance of areas of nature are at the top. And what we have in central western New South Wales are special areas around Burrendong, Narromine wetlands, Macquarie marshes, and Regan Park and the Dubbo Riverine corridor. Now, if we are smart, all of us, council, citizens, business people, everybody, can pull together, this can be a hugely significant area of nature, basically for the world. I've gone to various places and I've rubbed shoulders with Swedes and Thais and people from everywhere. And it's always interesting to see that people travel. You know, they might all not be on their yachts and on their spaceships. They might just be ordinary people in tents or whatever. But they do travel and they do talk to each other. They read books. They recommend you must go there to see that bird or you must go there to see that alligator. It's actually very powerful. And I'm just thinking about what are in the plans, what are being shown around people's areas of work and social commitments and so on, and what is not being clear and not being made clear to a lot of people. So I'm just thinking about that and wondering what we can all do to work together, not just for business people wanting a new little complex of sporting fields or whatever, but just for the greater good. That's really my message today. And thank you everyone for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms Clifford. And given the fact there's no more people in the public gallery, then that ends the public forum component of the council meeting. Next item is CCL 22/229, confirmation of minutes. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Wells. Any discussion or debate, councillors? I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 22/230, investments under section 625 of the Local Government Act. Can someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Showery, seconded by Councillor Ivey. Discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. So I'm sorry, I'm pausing not because I'm slow to look at your hands. I'm just making sure that Councillor Mann, I can see him as well because he's obviously got a slight delay there. Next item, CCL 22/231, mayoral appointments. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Goff. Any discussion or debate, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 22/232, Regan Park petition. Can I someone move that, please? Move that notation. Thank you, Councillor Black. Seconded by Councillor Ivey. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Black. Well, actually, sorry, I'll let you speak to the motion if you like, Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I note the motion and how many people signed the petition and how many people signed the petition. I think it's. I read through all the names. There has been a bit of a talk out there that it's only the rabid left-wing tree-hugging greenie environmentalists that want to keep Regan Park as a passive recreation area for the whole community, not develop it for football fields. And reading through some of the names on there, there's people who I know are active members of the National Party. There's business people there. There's an extremely well-known stock and station agent in Dubbo signed that. So that petition and who signed it, and the great number of people that I know are not rabid left-wing tree-hugging environmentalists that also want to see that land retained as passive open space for the whole community, kind of kills off any chatter out there that it's only this one little subsection of the Dubbo community that want to retain Regan Park for whole public use as passive open space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any further comment or questions? Councillor Ivey, then Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I read through the petition too and I found it very interesting. I found it interesting for one reason, which really had two parts, and that is the number of people from outside Dubbo that actually signed it. They gave addresses from interstate and certainly throughout New South Wales. And I think, and I'll tell you, my first thought was, oh, well, that's not really relevant because they don't live in Dubbo. And then I thought, no, hang on, that's actually quite relevant because that, one, it shows two things. One, the number of people from outside Dubbo who actually visit Dubbo. I presume they were there in person and they did physically sign the petition. It wasn't mailed to them and they sent it back. They were actually present in Dubbo. And so that goes to show what an important city Dubbo is, that it does attract people over a short period of time from such a wide area. And the other important thing I think that it should be taken into account is that those people did, even if they didn't absolutely know where Regan Park was or what it really, the whole debate was, they did appreciate the idea that it was an area of riverine land and that there was a move to try to protect it for environmental purposes. And I think that's important. And so they were the couple of things that I took out of the petition.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Two things, actually. Firstly, just declaring once again that conflict of interest being insignificant and less than pecuniary, or non-significant, I'm sorry, and less than pecuniary. My property borders my property is in Regan Park. My property does not necessarily border the subject land, nor does it overview the subject land. So subsequently, I'll staying in the room and I'll have my say. Just probably echoing as well some of the comments from Councillor Black, Councillor Ivey, just with regards to the diverse range of people that have signed this petition. One comment I would like to make, which probably disappoints me a little, is that we've heard from the gallery there's over 900 signatures on that petition, which is fantastic. But we're undergoing a master planning process at the moment, which is calling out for the community not necessarily tell us what they don't want, but what they do want. And I know this petition talks about maintaining public open green space, but what does that mean to the community? What do they want to see? And my understanding is we've got a consultation in place at the moment where community can put forward their ideas through the portal on our website. And my understanding is there's only around 350 members of the public who have taken the time to tell Council what they do want to see, not necessarily what they don't want to see. So I really just want to encourage again community, with this limited time you have available, jump on, have a look at these spatial concepts and provide your feedback in a more elaborate form rather than a signature on a particular petition, which has obviously garnered some interest. But please, from my perspective, I want to hear what the community do want down there on that last particular piece of space, so we can have something that is proud and that we can all utilise into the future.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. And just to clarify that point there too, that online survey is open till the 4th of October, so you've still got another week and a half to actually go and fill in that and give information exactly as you said. Further speakers, questions, debate, councillors? Councillor Black, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise it.
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. So we have the petition there for notation. Being no further questions, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item, CCL 22/233, report of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee. Councillor Black, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Thank you. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion or debate from that particular committee meeting, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 22/234, report of the Culture and Community Committee. Councillor Goff, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that committee meeting?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion or debate from that committee meeting, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. So the next item, CCL 22/235, report of the Corporate Services Committee. So moved by Councillor Mann and seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Any discussion or debate on that, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item CCL 22/236, update of Dubbo's citywide passive open space and sporting field possible locations. Councillor Black.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that. I'd like to move an alternate motion, if I may, and that reads out as follows. 1. That Council note that Dubbo Regional Council's strategic documents predict a shortfall of passive open space and a lesser shortfall in sporting fields in Dubbo. 2. That the Chief Executive Officer produce a report at the same ordinary meeting of Council at which the draft master plan for Macquarie River Corridor North and South precincts are considered, detailing all available Council-owned or administered land that could be used for passive open space and for sporting fields, and where both could be provided in order to best inform councillors and the community in respect of the latest predictions in relation to the current and future needs for public open space and sporting fields, given population projections and future subdivision developments. And 3, that Council notes in respect of the Landscape Master Plan for Macquarie River's North and South precincts that Council is committed to achieving the best outcome based on the most accurate data and is not working to a rigid or predetermined timeframe.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Wright, I do apologise for you before. I didn't call on you straight away for the petition, so my apologies on that one, but you want to declare an interest now.
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. And then it would have probably been a little bit simpler to do a pre-recording of this, but nevertheless, I will declare a conflict of interest here. It's a non-significant and less than significant and non-pecuniary on the basis that we will no doubt be discussing the Regan Park location. I own a property in Regan Park. However, my property does not adjoin the subject land we're referring to here, nor does it overlook that particular area. Subsequently, I'll deem it as non-pecuniary, and I'll remain in the room for the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I've read numerous strategic documents of Council, including, I'll just list a few. There's many important ones. The Towards 2040 Community Strategic Master Plan, the 2030 Recreation Strategy, the 2018 Dubbo Regional Council Open Space Master Plan, which is an update of the 2008 Dubbo City Park and Open Space Master Plan. You've got the 2015 Regan Park Master Plan. There's some operational plans there, and Regional Australia Institute, various documents there. As I've read through these documents, it's really started to scream out at me that we've put the cart in front of the horse on the issue of River Precinct master planning in this case. We've got the process back to front, the wrong way around, and we've gone off half-cocked. We need to update what we've got, have a look at what we've got, have a look holistically at where we could possibly put throughout the whole of Dubbo, not just the little strip down the river, open space and sporting fields. Obviously, what should have happened is the relevant strategic plans and other documents updated with the latest population trends, future subdivision and growth areas of the city, update those. Where's the best location for future green space? After liaising very closely with the sporting organisations, the actual data on predicted future needs of whatever sport it is, it's all right just to say, oh, we need 8 football fields or something like that, but where is the actual data? And a city-wide approach. Passive open space, that's only going to increase in the usage. We should have done that before undertaking the specific site master planning for the river corridor. This motion seeks to correct that and give us as councillors all the updated information for the whole city so we can make a holistic decision informed with all of the data, not just looking at the one little strip of tunnel vision. One document that I read, I think it was the Recreation Strategy 2030, predicted with population growth a deficit of 19.4 hectares of open space for sporting fields and 130 hectares for recreational parks. We really need to be making all our decisions based on the latest data and updated facts and data. How can we make a proper informed decision on where to locate passive open space and sporting fields when we don't have all this latest data? We aren't looking at the city holistically. And it might be seen as a bit of a random ad hoc approach. A lot of people are telling me that there has to be other areas. There cannot be just areas in Dubbo along the river for sporting fields. And I feel that as a council we should address the concern in the community. I would like to know exactly where sporting fields may go so that we can look at the whole city and not just say, right, well, this is the only opportunity we've got to put passive open space or sporting fields. We have to put that there. Let's get the data on everywhere. It's interesting that nowhere in the documents I read was Regan Park listed as future sporting. Along Brisbane Street up in North Dubbo of the police horse paddock was, but Regan Park was not. And we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation with one of the options for sporting fields if it wasn't for the St John's footy grant they were awarded. What those strategic documents do talk a lot about is the green web, green infrastructure and the river spine. This motion allows for recalibration and allows for the processes to be conducted that we can have a look at where we can put different things all around the city and make the best decision for Dubbo. Like I said, the intention of Regan Park from the Recreation Strategy 2030 and other documents was always for passive open space. I don't see anything that contradicts that I've read. There's also, I found a plan for Joyra Road Oval. There's a bit of a master plan. There's a playground and there's 10 or 11 acres where future sporting fields may go or passive open space. We need to be looking, I feel, at the whole city, not just one area in isolation, so that we can make the best decisions. An email I was shown from the consultant said about they're interested in personal thoughts and feelings. We shouldn't just be making decisions based on feelings. We should be making decisions based on the data and what we actually need, the actual plans for what we need. We know that we're going to need an extra 5 touch footy fields, or we might need none. What do we actually need to make the best decision? So I feel that we have the processes all around the wrong way. We should have had all that information from the start, looked at the citywide holistic approach, and then go from there. Lots of people, anyone who's read the Facebook comments would see that people sort of aren't really trusting the process, but that's what we've got at the moment. So if you can engage with it, email your councillors, call your councillors, tell them your thoughts. So the river corridor process master planning at the moment really lacks the broader context around sporting fields and city park needs throughout the whole city. With the census data that came out in 2021, we see that the population is growing a lot quicker than projections in Dubbo, and it has been for pretty much every projection over the last few censuses. We need an analysis of how many and the location of parks and sporting fields. I'm sure that nobody believes that the only place to put sporting fields in Dubbo is along the river. Also, the only place to put passive open space, there may be other places as well. But one of the things I hear from a lot of people is that there's a problem with the number of training grounds. If everyone wants to train on the same day, are there other ways that we could do a workaround with that? Might be more lighting, might be better use of or sharing other existing facilities. And the last little bit I'd like to say is that the 2018 Open Space Master Plan actually said that it says gaps as a departure from the Open Space Master Plan, whatever it was, in 2008, the strategy, the 2018 document does not aim to forecast future trends for play space. That's a bit unfortunate. I'd like to make my decisions based on the most up-to-date data so that we can make the best decision, not just tunnel vision on one little area. The 2018 Master Plan also, Open Space Master Plan also says about investigating broadening categories of open space to include multiple uses to avoid large areas of open space used only for specific purposes, e.g. sports fields. I see a lot of people walk up and down the river, but probably not as many people walking around the playing fields down there at Lady Cutler. Just something I've noted over the years. So really, if we can get the latest up-to-date data on the whole city, those plans would guide council and the whole community on the future needs to make our local government area attractive and livable. I'm not sure how we could say against making a decision based on all of the data. Only then should we really be looking at where active and passive open spaces can go throughout the whole city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Other speakers on this particular motion? Councillor Ivey? Yes, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will support Councillor Black's motion. I support the motion, but I don't support a lot of what he just said, if that is not a contradiction. He said, and to quote him, I don't believe the council should be going off half-cocked. That's his language, not mine. And I don't believe that we have put the cart before the horse. I do agree with him that we need information on the present supply and demand for sporting and active and passive recreation areas. I do believe that we need information about, as well as the supply, the future demand, and that we should take that information into account in making a decision and adopting a final master plan for the River Precinct area. Where I diverge, another area where I diverge from Councillor Black is that I think that is, looking at the information, most of which he referred to there, I believe the information is available, that is there. We don't need to go off and do any new studies in that sort of, to cover that area. I think the information is there. It does need to be drawn together. It does need to be put into a presentation that we as councillors then can use to put in with the other information from the master plan, from the environmental issues, from a whole lot of planning issues. But I really do believe the information is there, and if it's presented to the council at the same time as the master plan, then we really can achieve everything that Councillor Black says without really criticising the process at all. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further comment or questions, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I too will support Councillor Black's motion there. A couple of comments. Look, it's great that we've got a growing city and also a growing need for to provide these sorts of facilities for a community that is rather active. Just referencing back to that 2018 Open Space Master Plan, obviously it is only around 4 years old, probably not quite 4 years old since it was adopted, probably closer to 3, but nevertheless those types of documents I would have thought would have around a 10-year lifespan, and not much has changed. Well, we haven't seen significant changes over the last period of time to warrant a full redevelopment of that master plan, but certainly, as Councillor Ivey alluded to there, maybe some sort of consolidation of that information that can be easily digested by councillors to form decisions on. There's a couple of lines in that motion that I really wanted to point out, which I think are really important at the moment, and hopefully they'll go a fair way to appeasing some of the anxiety and accusations and various things that are floating around, especially in that social media space. And they are the last couple of lines. And the first one says that this council is committed to achieving the best outcome, and the last part of that says that we are not working to a rigid or predetermined time frame. So I really hope the community takes that on board, and those couple of lines address some of those concerns that are floating around in that social media space at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, Councillor Black, you have a right of reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll make it very brief. So just to reiterate, if we had updated all the strategic plans and looked at the whole city as a whole before we focused in on the river corridor, the community would probably be a lot happier with the process, and it may even lead to a better outcome. Time will tell. We may have decided that, we can have a massive sporting hub over here, we can have like a multi-sport hub, a huge multi-use, multi-purpose facility. And point 3, so council's not running to a time frame of it on our own, and we certainly shouldn't be, even though St John's have a grant that they have to make a start by in the middle of next year. The fact of the matter is, though, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion now if the St John's proposed grant hadn't been awarded and they hadn't come forward with a proposal. I'll leave members of the community to have a think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. So discussion and debate finished. I'll put that now. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda, just let me pause for 1 second there. Give me 1 second, sorry. The CEO just is giving Councillor Black something before he moves his next motion. Just talk amongst yourselves for about 10 seconds. I won't call an adjournment because this will be very brief, I'm sure. Thank you. Next item, CCL 22/237, River Repair Bus. Councillor Black, would you like to move that motion?
Thank you, Mr Merrill-Wood. The alternate motion I have here reads as follows. 1, that the Chief Executive Officer provide a report detailing how the work previously carried out by the River Repair Bus organisation under Council's previous funding arrangements is now being done and the current cost to Council for that work. And 2, that options for refunding the activity be outlined in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Oh yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I've noted over the years the work that the River Repair Bus does in cleaning up rubbish and planting trees and watering those trees through the drought and generally beautifying the river area around Dubbo. I also remember watching on the live stream, I was actually after the live stream because I was at school, but the budget meeting where some people involved with the Ozfish River Repair Bus were speaking about being refunded, their work being refunded, and I was just wondering the work that they previously did along the river, how's that being done now? Could we get a bit of a report on what they did, how that's happening, and are there any options to refund that if that work's not occurring at the moment? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? No. You've got a look there, Councillor Wright, as if you... Yep, Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I will ask a question, actually, through you, maybe to the CEO. Just with respect to the Ozfish River Repair Bus, obviously they did present at a council meeting several months back, and there was a fair bit of interest from councillors to see some type of program continue on. Has there been some discussion with the Ozfish River Repair Bus program since that particular meeting?
Thanks, Councillor Wright. I'll go through you, CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Short answer is yes, there has been an initial meeting just recently, and the council staff are working towards bringing that forward as part of the quarterly budget review in terms of the funding. So the funding wasn't allocated in the budget, so staff are actually exploring with the River Repair Bus Ozfish, the group, about what that may look like, and I guess more importantly, not just the funding, but actually putting some parameters around performance about what that looks like. Should they be allocated public funding via council, making sure that we have an agreed measure of success.
Thank you, CEO. Anything further, Councillor Wright?
Just a quick question again, if I can. Mr CEO, again, are you able to confirm that the prior arrangement was more of an ad hoc type arrangement and wasn't necessarily a formally documented type arrangement with specific parameters?
Thank you, Councillor Wright. CEO?
Through you, Mr Mayor. In recent years, yes, it has been ad hoc. Previously, I think there was, what I understand, has been a 2-year agreement that had lapsed, and then there's just been, an ad hoc annual arrangement.
Okay. Thank you, CEO. Councillor Wright, anything further? Any further questions or debate, councillors? No right of reply required. Councillor Black, because Councillor Wright didn't bring up any points of debate. I now ask some questions. So I now put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item, CCL 22/238, ensuring integrity of council's land use consent in grant applications. Councillor Black.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the motion as printed in the council papers.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Unfortunately, I've satisfied that that's an unlawful motion, in part because in principle it's the same motion as an August motion that was previously negatived, and as per section 372, 17.6 of the Code of Meeting Practice, if you were to bring forward a motion that's previously been negative, it's effectively a rescission motion. You need 3 signatures to bring that forward, and that's because 3 months hasn't elapsed since that time. So I'll rule that motion out of order under 10.6 of the Code of Meeting Practice, but you have the opportunity, if you so wish, to either withdraw or amend that motion to make it a lawful motion. So that's your choice, Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will move this amendment.
Well, don't move the amendment as such. It's just amending the motion, so that will then be the motion. So it's not like an amendment because I can't accept that first motion.
Right.
So it's basically the same as what you're saying. They're amending it, but it's not moving an amendment. It will be the motion with your amended component.
Okay. Thank you. This will be the motion with my amended component. 1. That Council notes the state and Commonwealth Government grant processes are the responsibility of the relevant state and Commonwealth authorities. 2. That Council notes that Council does properly and regularly provide letters in support or the like in respect of third-party grant applications. 3. That the CEO develop and produce a frequently asked questions fact sheet to give the community clarity around Council processes. 4. That the specific location site of any such proposals be noted. 5. That Council notes that the mayoral minute carried on 22 February 2021 stated that Council welcomes the proposal for the St John's Junior Rugby League Football Club proponents to potentially develop up to 10 hectares of Regan Park, comprising playing fields and ancillary infrastructure, contingent upon Council endorsement of site drawings, technical plans, relevant supporting documentation and approvals. And 6, that the CEO provide a report to the October ordinary meeting of Council advising whether the above resolution constitutes Council's consent to the St John's Junior Rugby League Football Club proposal being developed at Regan Park or any other site location, and whether Council has subsequently endorsed site drawings, technical plans, relevant supporting documentation and approvals.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Wright, you wish to declare an interest?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, let's just declare an interest again. Anyway, I will declare a non-significant, less than significant, non-pecuniary interest in this particular item. There could be obviously some discussions potentially about Regan Park. I do own a property in Regan Park. It does not adjoin the land, doesn't overlook the land. Subsequently, it is it is non-pecuniary and less than significant. So I will remain in the room and join in the discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the community are watching our actions, and actions speak louder than words. If we're going to be transparent, we actually have to be transparent, not just say that we are. So I'll start with what this motion is not. This motion is not about Council analysing or passing judgment on or reassessing the New South Wales State Government grant process. It's not about that at all. This motion is focused on what occurred at Council's end, what Council's legal position is on the former resolution that I read out and the letter of welcome provided to St John's in February last year. I note that it said it was contingent upon Council endorsement of site drawings, technical plans, relevant supporting documentation and approvals. Has Council endorsed such things, and if so, by how, when and by whom? This motion will provide a public answer, and the public can rest assured they'll be able to find out if consent has been given by Council. So is the land at Regan Park, or has it been nominated elsewhere? Was it even eligible due to the current conditions placed on that land? All those questions will be answered for the public. This we also need to ensure matters of governance and probity, integrity, reputational viewpoint to do with council. If I go around and say that, someone's endorsed me and they haven't, then that's going to be a problem for the person, problem for me, because the other person won't be very happy. It's exactly the same thing that's we need to sort out what's occurred with council. I can't just run around and say, oh yeah, so-and-so's endorsed me for election, if they haven't. There's serious governance and probity, integrity, reputational damage viewpoints there. So we as elected councillors, the Board of Council, need to establish if council's consent has been misrepresented or not. If so, how and by who? Because if it has been, then that would be extremely serious and needs to be addressed. We have a responsibility to ensure that there's no reputational damage to council as an organisation if such actions have occurred. Hopefully everything is all right, but we have a responsibility to evaluate, assess and ensure. That's what this motion delivers. So everyone's seen on Facebook, I gather, that questions have been asked in Parliament, in New South Wales Parliament, about the grant that St John's got. But we really need to ensure that council's consent hasn't been misrepresented at all by anyone, and that all our processes are in check. So this motion isn't limited to council's consent for the New South Wales State Government, covers any other grants the applicant has applied for, letters of acknowledgement or consent. So when you ask questions, look at what turns up. We saw that we'd been told there were no plans, and then suddenly we get some plans the other week and some other things. So this motion is about good governance, probity, integrity, ensuring trust in the community, openness and transparency, and it's especially about protecting council from potentially serious reputational damage that could occur if our consent has been misrepresented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will vote in favour of this motion, though not for the reasons that Councillor Black has outlined. I'll vote in favour of it because I think there is no harm in it, and let's put this business to bed and let's move on. I'm not voting in favour of it because I think it has any substance whatsoever. As far as I'm aware, I was elected to council to make an independent decision on various issues. One of those issues which is coming up is Regan Park and the future development of it. As I understand it, there is a process being put in place to develop a master plan for that, and after numerous questions, after bringing it up before the council and before the staff, I am convinced that I can make that decision without any unfettered influences at all. There are no preconditions on that development for that area. There is no concessions being given by council. There is no undertaking or backdoor deals being done that I'm aware of. It is a completely blank sheet of paper, and the decision will be made from the information that comes forward, not on the basis or influenced by anything that has happened before. So, and that reason I believe that Councillor Black's motion is unwarranted and really doesn't do anything in helping me make a decision, which I think is my responsibility as a councillor. But if it does something towards putting some of this garbage to bed, and so that we can move on and make a sensible, professional decision, then that is the reason why I will support it, not because I believe there's any substance in what he puts forward as being the reason for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I've got Councillor Mann.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to echo some of Councillor Ivey's sentiments just then, and I'd like to also add the point that with the previous motion where there's a frequently asked question or a guide coming out to actually detail the process that needs to go through, I think this should go a long way to allaying any fears and any rumours out there that there's anything untoward being practiced by this council at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Other speakers? I might just get one point of... Sorry, Councillor Wright, were you about to... Yep, that's fine. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I must say I do agree with many of Councillor Ivy's sentiments there, and in attempting to try and appease community concern and put some of these I suppose false misrepresentations to bed. I still don't know if moving this motion would even do that. I know that a number of councillors have provided as much information as we possibly can with respect to this particular topic, but seemingly it hasn't been enough. I'm not sure if they're the answers people are looking for. I guess a couple of points that I've just noted here. Certainly a fact sheet, that item 3, I hope that goes a long way as well to providing the public with information to make their own assessment, rather than reading a lot of the misrepresented information going around. Councillor Black made mention of a New South Wales parliamentary inquiry in place, and that's great. I'm not sure if WA Regional Council needs to have their own inquiry with respect to the legitimacy of a grant or a process or a misrepresentation of an item of document or support that we might have provided. And I guess I also pose the question that if someone else has misrepresented something that council's provided, wouldn't that be damaging to their reputation, not ours? We've provided just a simple document and in relation to a grant application, and if someone else has misconstrued that particular document as a result, I think that if people are barking up council's tree, it's probably the wrong tree to bark up in that instance. Again, highlighting that previous item CCL 22/236, there are no preconceived ideas or timeframes with this council with respect to this subject. I again want to go in with eyes wide open and move forward and make decisions on information we know, irrespective of decisions made by a previous council that aren't blurring the waters of the decision making for this council. So. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I was just going to ask the other questions of debate, but I'm not just... Oh, sorry, Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to add to the conversation, and agreeing with Councillor Black's motion and the content coming from my other colleagues, councillors, is that I think why I wish to support such a motion is, the opportunity for us to remain transparent, knowing that we already are, but sending that message to community when there's a perception out there that we're not. This will allay those sorts of concerns or fears, and that will hopefully restore any other lack of views in the community. So I'm just wanting to, I suppose, speak to the community and say that we're all here in this together for the same reasons, and we'll be making a decision based on informed information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. I might just ask the CEO, I was interested in one point there from the perspective of what Councillor Black started off with the legal responsibility in terms of having handed over a letter of support, which obviously happened last February 2021, and I suppose we do hand over other support letters. Our legal responsibility as a council, in terms of following that process through, do we have any legal implications if someone does go, as Councillor Blake said, and misrepresent that? As Councillor Wright said, that's probably them doing the wrong thing, not us. So do we have any legal responsibility to follow that process through and make sure that's used in a correct way?
In terms of following through and making sure it's been portrayed correctly in a grant of a third party, no. And the logic there is a letter of support doesn't actually have legal weight from a council decision-making process. I'll use open space, and as councils know, I've had some communication with you, explain the Local Government Act is very regulated in terms of how council must make decisions about the allocation of open space. So in that sense, a letter of support, as was provided, that was based on the resolution of the then council back in 2021, doesn't override the legislative obligations of council as an organisation and the processes it must go through in terms of allocating public land. And so, just for some greater context, you touched on the issuing of letters of support since February 2021. Sorry, there's been around 84 letters of support from either the Mayor's office, CEO's office or directors for organisations to again enable them to get resources from government programs and what have you that can produce community outcomes.
Yeah. Thank you, CEO. Other questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright, sorry, I had another question. You can't bring forward any debate, but you can have a question.
I do have a question, and I'm not sure if it's a question I can direct at this or maybe at Councillor Black. Am I able to ask a question? Just some clarity. The question more around item 6 of that motion, where you've just requested whether council has subsequently endorsed those items. When you say subsequently endorsed, you're referring to written endorsement, council meeting endorsement, open public endorsement. What specifically are you referring to in respect to that? If you can just elaborate to me on that.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Black, can you answer that? You don't have to answer that question for Councillor Wright, but you have the option to answer if you would wish.
Through the chair, I'll give it a go. So it would be formal endorsement. So have there been site drawings, technical plans, relevant supporting documentations and approvals submitted and endorsed formally by council? Is there a written trail of that? It shouldn't be too hard to pull up if there is. Thank you.
Sorry, the CEO just whispered to me there that he can answer it right now if you'd like. Would you like to do that, or just a question through to the CEO?
Yeah, there's been no formal endorsement of plans by St John's.
Thank you. Councillors, anything further? I try not to enter the debate too much as chairperson, but I suppose that this one I have a little bit of an issue with, because it's interesting, when 84 support letters, I don't feel our job is to investigate, and I suppose if that was our job, that'd be 84 investigations we should be running at the moment just for the last year and 9 months in terms of support letters being given. We know the answer to this already. We know there was a support letter given in February last year, and we know that a grant was awarded based on the grant application, presumably including that particular support letter. So I just don't see that this motion actually achieves anything, doesn't give us any extra information, more so than we've already got. The frequently asked questions, the CEO has already sent out an email to councillors talking about putting out an FAQ, so it's not really achieving anything additional there. And I don't think it actually does anything for transparency, because it gives us a document that we've already seen. We've already seen the document that's the support letter from council, February last year, to say that there's land potentially developed there. But again, we've moved on from that. As Councillor Ivey said, we've well and truly moved on from that. And I still don't think it will allay any concerns from the community, because we're only giving the community what is already there. There's nothing additional being added to what's in there. So I struggle with it, and I just feel if there's a motion being brought forward that just wastes a bit of time and doesn't achieve anything, I do have trouble supporting those motions. It almost feels like, and I'm not saying it is, but it almost feels like it's just a bit of a political witch hunt rather than actually achieving something for this council. And if it is a political witch hunt, is that something that this council wants to be involved in? That's not our role to do. Our role is to do the best thing we can for this community. So I struggle with it, and I can't support it based on that, especially with the additional information the CEO's just given us there. We've got everything we need. So anyway, that's my little, and I apologise for entering the debate. I try not to, but this one seemed to be one that really just seemed to be going nowhere. Any further questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Every time I talk, there seems to be a blow-up on Facebook. But once upon a time, I used to be a teacher, and I've learnt if someone doesn't want to learn the lesson, they're not going to learn it. You can scream at them, yell it down their throat. They're not going to change their mind. I too go into this with an open view. I'm clearly not a sports person. I probably should go for a walk, but certain members of the public are making it very, very hard to keep the mind open. I'm just going to say that.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any further questions or debate, councillors? Being none, I go back to Councillor Black for a right of reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll keep this brief. We aren't investigating anything with this motion. All we are doing is clarifying for Council's position on was endorsement actually given from that February 21 resolution. So, if anything, this council is clearing up what actually happened and providing public transparency plus good governance for ourselves. So it won't affect the current master planning process. It's completely separate to that. This is all about looking at what council actually did. Have we got it right? If we're going to write 84 grant applications or letters of support for different organisations, I would hate to think that government bodies assessing those are saying, oh gee, did council really do that or not? If we can clear this up, it's yes, council's going great, there's no problems of anything that comes that way. So it's the motion's about looking at our processes, reassuring the public and all these state and federal grant, or where do grants go, state and federal government organisations, that they can have confidence in council's processes, that we do get it right. It's public, transparent. It's not a political witch hunt. That's an absurd point. This is all about looking at our own internal processes, good governance within council, the community, that they can have confidence that council has done the right thing, and state and federal grant approvers can also have confidence in this council when we write letters of endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. I have that now. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is CCL 22/239, lighting audit of Cameron Park in Wellington. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Sorry. I put this motion forward because I love open green spaces, and I personally think we've got this beautiful park in Wellington that should be used day and night. If it's lit up a bit more with lighting that looks better, a lot of it's not working anymore, it will curb, I believe it would curb antisocial behaviour. And now that we've got the new pedestrian bridge to connect our main business precinct with Regent Pioneer Oval, I would like to see some lighting around that as well. So I hope other councillors can support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. I was going to give you speak to the motion, but you've kind of spoken to it now, so that's fine. No, that's right. That's fine. So, Councillor, any discussion or debate? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I will absolutely 100% support such a motion, and I think that where there can be better lighting in somewhat dark areas where we have a lot of the community members congregating and having, to come together, it's important that we have good lighting, not only to deter any social behaviour. I think that's a good outcome from it, but it also encourages families to be out using those spaces in the warmer weather and enjoying that beautiful area that Councillor Goff is suggesting the lighting for. So I'll definitely support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Any other discussion, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, obviously I commend this motion and will speak in favour of it. I think it's a great idea. Cameron Park really is an area that a lot of towns would actually kill to have in their precincts. It's a fantastic resource. It could be better. It certainly could be a lot better. And better lighting in there is one way of moving towards better utilisation and greater enjoyment of that area, and I commend the motion for that reason.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any discussion? Any further discussion about councillors? No. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak? Sorry, a right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. I have that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 22/240, regulatory issues pertaining to 3D printed housing in New South Wales and Australia. Can I have someone move that report, please? Councillor Wright. Someone second that. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wright, you wish to speak to that motion?
Yeah, I will, Mr Mayor. Thank you. This item obviously follows on from an earlier motion that seemed to garner a fair bit of interest around the country, and in fact around the world, actually, with respect to the possibility of 3D printing up to 4 homes on some blocks of land to be released at Keswick in the next stage in 2023. Look, well done to the team, Director Wallace and the team for putting this together. Look, it's a pretty interesting read, and I hope it was just as interesting for you and your team putting this together as well. Obviously, it's a pretty unique report and something you probably never had the opportunity to experience. And obviously, reading that report, the indications are that we are heading into some uncharted territory, but looks like that this type of dwelling may well be achievable within building guidelines. So, which is exciting in itself. I guess I also wanted to point out that for those lovers of the block, if you've been watching it on TV at home, you would have seen that they've announced the 3D printing of an outside pool cabana, which will actually contain a bar, a bathroom, and an entertainment space, and that will show that this type of dwelling is achievable and can be quite practical and well utilised with different construction materials. And I, for one, feel that type of thing on national TV certainly validates this type of concept, and the report does make mention of a team from Contour 3D, who is one of the companies that did reach out and spoke to council during the sort of the consultation phase, if you like, of building this particular report. So well done to the team on putting it together, and I look forward to seeing where it heads from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, very exciting this report and the whole 3D printed house dwelling initiative. It was interesting to read the report about some of the technologies outstrip the Building Code of Australia and the regulations. But look, having a look at the pics online of the latest 3D printed houses, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I'd be happy to live in a 3D printed house on Monday. If you started printing it on Saturday, I'd be ready to live in on Monday. So I can't wait to see if we get a 3D printed toilet over in West Dubbo, and even maybe one at the Dubbo Cemetery. That'd be great too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Perhaps a question through you to the relevant staff member perhaps might be able to answer. I notice in the report where it acknowledges that approval authorities must consider each individual project under the relevant performance solution provisions of the BCA for their evaluation and approval. This is the only approach that allows them to approve such 3D printing constructions, provided they are shown to comply with the performance requirements of the BCA provisions, which seems to be a long way around to say, well, we're not quite sure exactly whether it would be approved or not. But could I ask then, is it likely that today, with what the state of technology is now, that if someone came along and started to construct a 3D house, then it would actually satisfy the building requirements, and therefore it would be given a certificate of occupancy?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I'll go to the CEO for that. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll pass on to Mr Griffiths for an answer.
Just pause 1 second. Yeah, can you just go over next to Councillor Goff, please, because a microphone for those couple of thousand people watching online need to be able to hear what you've got to say.
Yes, through the Chair to Councillor Ivey. In response to your question, yes, there is a pathway by which 3D housing can be approved. That pathway is different from normal conventional housing because it has to go through what's termed the performance solution route.
Do you want any further expansion on that, Councillor Ivey?
Yes, and just to follow up on that, so what's your professional opinion today, next week, next month? Would such approval be likely to be granted?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. To Mr Griffith again.
Through the Chair again. Yes, it's highly dependent upon the nature of the technology and product that's presented. Because it's such a new technology, there's a lot of ongoing research, different research done by different manufacturers in developing their product. But in principle, yes, there's no reason why 3D housing can't be approved under performance provisions.
Thank you, Mr Griffith. Any further, Councillor Ivey? I heard a yes in there. That was that was the outcome of that. Thank you, Mr Griffith. Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm really excited about this because we're gonna hit a housing shortage, and I've been banging on about it. Emergency housing is critical. So if this is going to fast track more housing, it's very exciting.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any further, councillors? Councillor Wright, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise it.
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
We have the motion before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 22/241, Smart Region Strategy and Smart Council Strategy, results of public exhibition. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Goff. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Wells?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ivey, did you have your hand up then? Sorry, yep, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, I must admit I wasn't aware of this document until it was circulated within the business papers, and I did read through it, and I thought it was terrific. It was much broader than what the heading, what the title actually implies. It really is a comprehensive document, and I would have thought from a council planning perspective it really does address the issues and provide a framework whereby our future development and future some of the strategic planning and implementation really can then provide it does provide a great pathway for that to happen. And I think that's the sort of thing that really we as a council should take a lot of notice of, both in the development of it and obviously the implementation and the following up of it. Just on a very parochial local thing, I did notice a very fantastic photo of the Wellington Vista that highlights in the contents page. So I think that's very good too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further discussion? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very good document this. The community can have confidence that council is being proactive and cutting edge and adopting new technology and processes to make council more efficient into the future and provide better use of money and delivery of resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any further discussions, debate, councillors? Councillor Wells, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise it.
Oh, not really, Mr Mayor. I think both Councillor Ivey and Councillor Black have both outlined some really comprehensive information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. We have CCL 22/241 before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/242, Planning Proposal R22-004, 13L Narromine Road, Proposed Amendment. Can someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Goff. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, any discussion or debate in that particular one? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There are some very exciting aspects of that planning proposal out on the western edge of town. I was just looking through the maps, etc., and thinking how good it would be if we could see bike lanes, especially for e-bikes, which are probably going to be the future of how people get around. I've read some reports on that, and if we could have a lot of green infrastructure in these new developments so that they really are attractive, cool in summer places for people to live in, that might come further down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't have an issue with the motion at all. I'm happy to support. My only comment would be that the Narromine Road area out from Dubbo to Narromine is that I'd hope that we would always remain cautious, as there are a number of scarred trees on that roadway. So hoping that that's always in the mind of council when we're doing that thinking. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Other discussion or debate, councillors? No. There being none, Councillor Etheridge, wish you exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is the CCL 22/243, Draft Northwest Urban Release Area Precinct Plan. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Seconded by Councillor Goff. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that motion?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll just speak briefly on that. This is another very exciting urban release area for Dubbo. People who take the time to have a flick through some of the maps and the concept ideas in the papers would see that apart from probably River Street Bridge wrecking the area along the side of the river, which would have been a fantastic area for Dubbo, there are some real opportunities there for well-planned, higher-density living with basically a retail centre, and also There's future planning to be done yet, but there's a real opportunity here to provide really good livability, good parks, good accessibility through bike lanes for e-bikes. I'd be more of an e-bike person than a turn the pedal sort of person. But we can design in the future, and I'm confident with Council on that the designs can be done that really make a special statement about how we can design areas better into the future and make them really livable in over the next 50 years or so, 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Before we continue with any discussion or debate, I'll ask Mr Jennings to do a brief 45-minute presentation on the North West Dubbo Precinct Plan. He said he'd cut it down from the 1 hour we had the other day to a 45-minute one for today. Thank you, Mr Jennings.
No worries. Thank you, Mr Mayor. And today's presentation is going to go through some of the planning, where we're at with this precinct plan. So, yeah, just to give us a snapshot of where we're going. Today's a very strong point and good point for us in our future planning in that area of Dubbo, given it will be one of our key growth areas into the future. Thanks, Susan. So just to give a snapshot here, this map shows West Dubbo in context and our strategic planning activities across 3 different areas. The northwest there is the 375 hectares of land. It's about 2 kilometres as the crow flies from the Dubbo CBD. But the main strategic focus for Dubbo is to take us to West Dubbo over time, so our CBD does remain at the centre of the city as well.
Just sorry, Mr Jennings, just before you go any further, I just want to highlight to people watching online, they're not seeing your presentation live, but the actual presentation is available online, so if anyone's watching, they can actually download that presentation so they can actually kind of follow along the slides with you. So if anyone's watching, they can actually get that document from the same location as the business papers. Yep. Thanks, Mr Jennings.
No worries. Thanks, Mr Mayor. So just basically this area here in context, what we've got on the blue slide there, that's the whole land area, 375 hectares. Council does own quite an extensive area of land in that precinct as well. We've had quite a strong level of interest from landowners and developers in the area, because given it has been in our planning since 1996 as being that very important area for us to move forward. So basically the Northwest Precinct Plan, this is the basically where the rubber's starting to hit the road with our strategic processes out in this area. The role of the plan is basically to guide through the overall constraints process, and then also looking about how we can best come up with a structure plan for how the land can be developed over time. Just there as well, what we're looking at, this area has the real potential for around 6,000 dwellings once fully developed, and I'll touch on what our overall plan looks like in a minute as well. So this plan here we have in front of us, this is our overall structure plan or zoning plan that we're looking at for the precinct. Some of the key features, we are looking at a very sort of defined town centre area. Given we are 2 kilometres from the CBD, it's not about a second CBD. It's about providing some sort of capability there in the future to service the residents in this area, given those numbers that I spoke on as well. Also there, around the CBD, around the town centre area, I'll call it, also there, quite an extensive area of land with the B4 mixed-use zone, 26.7 hectares, then also some large R1 general residential areas. These areas will allow for a greater level of diversity in housing product and housing choice, so over and above a single dwelling or a dual occupancy as well. So, we are really trying to hone in on the fact that this can help us there with those housing issues into the future. As you probably see there as well, there's some quite extensive areas of open space in the precinct that we've been looking at. Thanks, Susan. So this next slide here just gives a snapshot on the left-hand side of the type of development that we'd be likely to see in the town centre area, and also with the R1 general residential areas as well. So very much looking about, how can we add some more density, but also not just density for the sake of it, but also having some well-planned and well-developed residential areas from there. The right-hand side map, we're also looking at what our variations in lot size can be in the precinct as well, because we definitely do recognise that we do need to add some variation in product from that lot size as well. So basically where you can have from the more traditional Dubbo lot size, that we're sort of known for, going through to that smaller product as well. Thanks, Susan. So upcoming consultation. Basically, following council's consideration tonight, we're looking to do some very focused consultation with landowners. With landowners, if I can speak properly, because we very much need them on side and to take them on the journey with our planning processes as well. Apart from that, also a wider 28-day consultation period, state agencies and also wider industry. There as well. Thanks for the hurry up. So next steps moving forward. So the consultation process is after council's consideration, and then we will bring back a report to council for consideration with submissions from landowners and from the public and stakeholders, and then we will continue on the further planning processes out in the precinct. So that's looking at how we can realise some of those rezoning areas there as well. And the other part of the report tonight, one of the key things that we've had to look at in the precinct is a very defined strategic road network. With the River Street Bridge project there in white on the right-hand side of the map there as well. Basically, the area has a very defined, obviously Bungalgumbi Road runs through the middle, and then we've recognised the need in council's transportation strategy for that east-west link as well. So that's where River Street West comes into things, and then we'll come out onto the Mitchell Highway adjacent to the drive-in theatre, or the old drive-in theatre there as well. So council has a very good opportunity at the moment to seek a government grant under the Accelerated Infrastructure Fund for the construction of River Street West Stage 1 as well. So this road, or there in blue on the map, it's situated on council's land and hasn't got any private land holding considerations there for that process. Basically, if we can move towards realising stage 1 of River Street West, it will allow us to have that second point of access into the precinct, which is going to be very important over time, because we don't want traffic to basically back up onto Bungalgumbi, Thompson Street and that link there as well. Thanks, Susan. So also there in the report, the Accelerated Infrastructure Fund requires a 25% contribution from council. Our costings for stage 1 are 12.3 million, and this means that the council contributions are 3.075 million from there. So that concludes the presentation. But, that's the precinct. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. So we've had that moved, and Councillor Black has spoken to that. Any discussion or debate, or indeed maybe questions for Mr. Jennings, or any further questions on that? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think that's the plan is terrific, and that looks good. I look at it, and we've got 375 hectares, which is not far shy of 1,000 acres. We're talking about, perhaps up to 6,000 dwellings being proposed for the area, with 15,000 people, and perhaps that means 3,000 or 5,000 children. But in that plan, there is no allocation for any schooling. Now, I know that the position of schooling is not the responsibility of council, it's a state government matter, but shouldn't that plan include some contingency or some suggestions as to where we would like that schooling to go?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I'll go through to the CEO.
Through Mr Mayor, I'll just get Mr Jennings to talk to about the zoning in which education facilities can be built and how that's applicable to the Northwest Precinct.
No worries. Thank you, Mr Mayor and Mr CEO. Good point, Councillor Ivey. Schools can be developed on any residential land with development approval. So in terms of that, we don't have to stick some sort of a yellow rectangle on the map, so to speak. But in saying that as well, we are at the moment doing some consultation with education, and it's a very solid point for all of our West Dubbo planning activities that we are undertaking.
Thank you, Mr Jennings. Councillor Ivey, happy with that? No further? No. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a comment. Really excited to see that many properties looking at the draft options for West Dubbo. Hoping that part of the thinking and the planning includes affordable and social housing. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, Councillor Black, do you need a right of reply?
Oh, just a very brief one. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to thank Mr Jennings for that very detailed presentation. I really would encourage the community to go online and have a look at the plans. This is a very exciting opportunity to set Dubbo up for the next 30 plus years with some really good housing options over in West Dubbo, and it is just a shame, like I said before, that River Street Bridge goes through there and messes up some previously made plans for living along the river. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. We have that before us now, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, next item, thank you, Mr Jennings. Next item on the agenda is CCL 22/244, Draft Council Policy, Payment of Expenses and Provision of Facilities for the Mayor and Councillors, Results of Public Exhibition. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright. Seconded by Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. It is noted there that that was a public exhibition and there were no people that chose to submit a public exhibition, so probably not a lot of excitement in that particular report. Sorry, Councillor Wright.
Mr Mayor, I actually do have a quick question with respect to a particular table that's actually in that report, page number 333, I suppose, of the actual document itself. The table shows operating expenses of $46,000 in the first year, but subsequent years of $92,000 rolling forward. I just wanted to clarify if that's actually just a typo error and it should be $46,000 each year, not $92,000 rolling forward.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll just go through to the CEO.
And I'll pass on to Mr Frost.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. That is actually a drafting error in that table. The report is quite clear that at the moment the funds allocated for this policy is $30,000. The decision you make tonight in adopting the revisions adds another 16, which adds up to 46. So going forward over the next 4 years, it would be 46 or whatever subsequent council resolutions are. But as I said, that's a drafting error in the report, so I apologise for that.
Thank you, Mr Frost. Mr Frost did tell me earlier that he put that in there deliberately to see how detailed councillors read the report, so well done, Councillor Wright. You've picked up the prize today. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I previously voted to put this out on public exhibition so that the public would have a chance to have a look at it and comment on it. Although nobody commented or made a public submission, lots of people spoke to me about it and said, what on earth is going on at council? We're supposed to be filling a $20 million budget black hole. How on earth can you lot be giving yourself more travel allowance and more kilometres travelled when we're in these hard financial times, etc., etc.? So based on the number of people that spoke to me about this, I'm going to vote against the changes in this. Basically, we've got, I noted that the mayoral travel for private vehicle use would start from kilometre zero, when everyone else has got to start from 10 kilometres. I haven't claimed any travel allowance yet or travel on council-related business. One of the reasons is because I'm not real good with my paperwork, but the second is that I just, I've been a few places, back and forth to Wello a few times and visited a couple of people, but I could pretty much claim every trip because I live out of town on any council-related business, but I just, I'm a councillor, you don't get paid a lot, but it's kind of like my job. But I'll have to start putting in some claims. So I thought what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and if we've all got to do from 10 kilometres and then we can claim a trip, I thought it probably should be that for the Mayor as well. I also see the travel allowance at $5,000 per councillor and $18,000 for the Mayor. I just couldn't imagine myself spending $5,000 per year going to various conferences and things like that. And $18,000 for the Mayor. If it was every week down at Canberra or Sydney kicking on a minister's door demanding and securing grant funding for Dubbo, I'd probably say yes. But given the times that we're in, that we really need to be budget conscious, I thought that I'd vote against both the draft tonight, accepting the draft, and those two things to keep costs down for the ratepayers. And I don't think it's a good look if we're awarding ourselves all this extra travel allowance just at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright, you have a right of reply.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'll be saying that I will be voting in favour of this motion, and again disappointed that we didn't hear from the community. But noting Councillor Black's comments with respect to that, and I'm not sure if we're awarding ourselves a particular an extra bonus here. Look, I too haven't claimed any travelling and mileage expenses at all, and fortunate enough that I can cover those costs myself as well. And maybe there are councillors in the room that maybe do need a bit of assistance to cover those sort of costs whilst they're on this civic duty. But I will highlight that the cost of living is in front and centre at the moment, and the cost of maintaining a car, paying insurance, paying registration, putting new tyres on your car, covering fuel costs are all increasing significantly. So I don't believe this increase is anything absurd and outside the box with respect to what we're looking at here in reimbursing councillors for the cost of travel. So certainly I'm happy to support it on that basis.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. We have that now, and we've had a right of reply, so I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 22/245, Review of Council Policy, Financial Assistance. Can someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 22/246, Transition to Zero Emissions Fleet. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Seconded by Councillor Goff. I'll let Mr Colliver, before you speak to that motion, Councillor Ivey, I'll let Mr Colliver do his presentation, and the same thing for those people viewing online. That presentation that Mr Colliver is about to run through is available online, so you can follow through while Mr Colliver goes through and does that presentation. Thank you, Mr Colliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. By the way of background, this report has been generated by Council's Energy Strategy and Implementation Plan, which is 2020 to 25. Which it included a sustainable transport goal for transitioning to a zero fleet emissions. The report, initial report, was put to the May council meeting, and there was an amendment where the CEO would come back at the council meeting and provide options and recommendations for the transition to zero emission fleets. We've been looking at this space for a long time with quite a pragmatic approach in terms of the duty cycles, the maintenance, charging, infrastructure and total cost of ownership. We've moved in and out of this market, but we think now the market is such that we should look much closer in, and particularly in the light vehicle fleet. We currently have 3 items which are full electric. There's an SUV at the Visitor Information Centre. There's a forklift at the Hawthorn Street depot, and there's a golf cart at the Wellington Caves. There are some opportunities to enter the electric truck market, however they're somewhat limited, and the immediate segment that we're looking at is the light vehicle leaseback segment. Up on the presentation, we partnered with EV Energy to assist us with this transition, and they provided us with some timeframes, short and medium and long goals, and that chart up there represents which segment of the market would be show parity with an internal combustion engine and allow us to move into that market. The best market which we could move into is the light vehicle commercial market, because it's areas that, because of their short cycles and they're not influenced by personal choice, that would be our best market to move into. However, the transition into that is not expected to be until 2025, at which time vehicles will become more available. So the market that we're looking at the moment is the passenger SUV market, which are predominantly our leaseback fleet, which vehicles are attached to staff to retain and attract staff in what is a very competitive market. But it's somewhat problematic in that there's a lot of personal choice associated with that leaseback fleet. We looked at two options on how we're going to move this along, and one was to mandate vehicles and only move into hybrid plug-in electrics and EVs into that segment, and the second one is possibly some policy change that would allow the choice of EVs moving forward. The first one was too problematic again in terms of the restrictions around distance and towing capacities for that particular segment of the market. So the main thing was around range anxiety. So the segment of the market that we're now looking at is going to have a range of at least 400 kilometres, would allow people to travel away from Dubbo in a reasonable frame and manage their stops around the charging facilities. We partnered with EV Electric, which run a better fleet evaluation tool, which looks at a number of things, and in particular our total cost of ownership. Now, with the total cost of ownership, it's more than just the purchase price, even though that seems to be the most significant part that we look at when we buy a car. But the cost of running that vehicle is a significant cost. So we used the assumptions used in this. We used Red Book residual values, which is what they anticipate the price of the vehicle will be at the point of sale. We used the fuel numbers from the Australian Automotive Association, electricity costs for best electricity rates and solar choices, and we ran two scenarios, one based on FBT applicable for all vehicles and one based on FBT applicable only for the internal combustion engine vehicles. The federal government has indicated they will be removing FBT from EVs, but not yet. It's not been yet legislated. That will have a significant impact on the cost of operating the vehicles, and it's based on our 20% statutory use market. So if we were to purchase a vehicle around $35,000, our FBT obligation would be about $7,000. So moving forward, we've looked at the total cost of ownership of these items, even though the cost to enter this market with that range of 400 kilometres, and there's in the evaluations we've done 3 internal combustion engines and 3 variations of EVs that will achieve 400 kilometres. So we look at that total cost of ownership and break that down into purchase, operation and disposal, and we represent it as a cents per kilometre. So the lower the cents per kilometre, the better option it is for us. And as I say, that iceberg is a fair representation. People just often think that it's a purchase cost, but it's the total cost of ownership. We've then developed the 2 reports, which are the 2 attachments. And as you can see there, that particular model is a Mazda CX-8 with a total cost of ownership over 4 years of 64 cents. The attachments break down to all of those particular items that we assessed. And in order to move in that space, there can be the purchase price can be as high as an additional $19,000 per vehicle. The current limitations are the directors have up to $40,000 to purchase a vehicle, and the managers and staff up $35,000. So there would need to be an increase in capital costs. Thanks, Susan. But as I say, as we look at the total cost of ownership over a 4-year period, the 3 EVs are the lowest total cost of ownership compared to a Mazda and Isuzu, or 2 Mazda variations and an Isuzu. So even though there's an additional buy-in cost for the upfront cost for the EVs, over a 4-year period they are significantly cheaper to run. Therefore, we're suggesting that now is the time that we enter the market, and I'm asking Council to consider what's an appropriate entry point. So the recommendations the Council adopt this policy to allow for a higher purchase price for EVs when the total cost of ownership over 4 years is no more than the approved range of internal combustion engine vehicle options. Once we do that, this is a fairly moving picture at the moment. You'll see back in those where we think our entry points are, we're there already. So it's moving pretty quickly in terms of battery technology, range and cost. So I'm asking to give the CEO approval to alter the policy when it's advantageous with new technology and government incentives that do not increase the total cost of ownership. Based on what happens tonight, we would then vary the draft emission strategy to modify Council's outcome tonight and place both these reports on public exhibition for 28 days. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Colliver. Well done on that extensive report. I know there's been a lot of work you've put into that. So, Councillor Ivey, you were moving, but just a slight variation on the motion printed in the papers. Would you like to read that motion out, the alternative motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor. It's basically as Mr Colliver had on the screen, but if I can just go back and find...
We'll pull that up on screen, Councillor Ivey.
Oh, is it? Is it 390? Right, I can... 393. I can read it out, Mr... through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO, that Council recommend the motion is that Council adopts a policy that allows a higher purchase price for electric vehicles when the total cost of ownership over the 4-year period is no more than the approved range of internal combustion engine vehicle options. 2, that approval be given to the Chief Executive Officer to alter the policy when considered advantageous with new technology and government incentives that do not increase the total cost of ownership to Council, and 3, that the draft zero emissions fleet strategy and implementation plan be modified to reflect Council's strategy on the implementation of EVs into the fleet and be placed on public exhibition for a period of 28 days.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. It has been seconded by Councillor Goff. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Ivey?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor, I would. Look, I thoroughly endorse the motion, obviously, but perhaps one of the reasons that I'm a bit excited about it is when I read through the submission that's Council's been put together, and I found out that Council, that has a budget of $220 million a year and has how many employees and covers this area, has 3 electric vehicles, and that in this day and age with climate change, with emissions policy being front and centre of most organisations, for the Council to only have 3 vehicles, I think is not something to be proud of. This move towards allowing or providing a level playing field really for electric vehicles is a step in the right direction. For sure, as Mr Colliver says, for sure the capital cost outlay initially of an electric vehicle is higher, but in this day and age of relatively still lower interest rates, that's not a high cost to Council, and that if by providing or facilitating the provision of these vehicles we end up with a total cost of ownership that is around about, not quite but nearly half the cost of internal combustion engines, it really is a bit of a no-brainer. And I think that if we can adopt this, if this foreign policy becomes adopted, that it will very quickly gather momentum, and I think we'll find a lot of staff do look at the numbers and look at the figures and say, righto, an electric vehicle is for me. And so by council being proactive and putting in place that policy whereby that can happen, I think it's a real win-win for staff and for the council and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate or tricky questions for Mr Colliver? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's just a question for Mr Colliver, if I could. I agree with what Councillor Ivey has said, and excited to see that this is an opportunity for us to encourage more electric vehicles. I'm just curious, though, about the total cost of operation, or total cost of ownership, is that there doesn't appear to be any information in there for maintenance running, such as window replacements or battery replacements or tyre replacements and things like that. So I may have missed it. I just was curious about that, not included. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. I'll go to the CEO. Mr Colliver.
Thank you, Mr Chair, Mr Mayor. Under the Better Fleet evaluation, they evaluate all those tasks. In the attachment, you'll see it comes under one category. I think it's called maintenance. So yeah, all those things are assessed as part of that total cost of ownership equation. Yep.
Thank you, Mr Colliver. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Nothing else, Councillor Wells? No. Councillor Black. Oh, sorry. No, you're right. No. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I thank Mr Colliver for his very extensive report. It was a masterpiece. I think it's important for the viewers at home and everyone in the community to realise that the total cost of ownership over the 4-year period for these EVs will be no more than a standard internal combustion engine vehicle. So it's not like we're going out and spending a whole stack of money on electric vehicles. It's going to end up triple the cost, etc. That with climate change and variable climate, these really are going to be the way forward at some stage. And if we are doing it at a cost neutral, then why not give it a go, and we'll see where we end up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other questions or debate, councillors? No, and I think this is fantastic leadership, Mr Colliver. I think you'll see throughout the community other residents who have got to focus on climate change and have got to focus on moving the community forward. We'll see that leadership by council and hopefully adopt that as well. Already 20% of councillors are driving EVs as we speak today, and hopefully we'll get to the stage very quickly before 20% of staff are driving EVs, and then we'll go forward from there. So you have a right of reply, Councillor Ivey, if you wish to exercise it.
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. You have that before us now, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, Mr Colliver. Next item, CCL 22/247, Dream Festival Lantern Parade. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to make a comment. It's great to see the Lantern Parade back again, a Dream Festival. As a patron of the arts, I really like to see the lantern parades. I remember seeing one in Minnicamo when I was there on the exchange a few years ago, 10 or 12 years ago now. How time flies. But there were so many people out looking at all the lanterns, and I know that my friends' kids go down with their lanterns or whatever they do, march along and send you pictures of their lanterns, and it is a really good time for the community, and hopefully it will be again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, again, fantastic. And as I understand it, part of the Dream Festival, we have in Wellington the Fongley Lane event, and I'm not quite sure. I would have thought that might have involved some traffic committee issues too, but I can only hope that that's been taken into account and is under control, because it too is a fantastic event, and I think that the organisers too of the Dream Festival, by combining a lot of the functions in Dubbo and also in Wellington, it's just terrific. We should see more of that sort of thing. It's great.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Anything further, councillors? There being nothing, Councillor Goff, do you wish to have a right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There being nothing, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Last item on the agenda, councillors, CCL 22/248, comments and matters of urgency. Let's go Councillor Wells first. Go anti-clockwise.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have got a couple of things that I wanted to raise. One of them being the continued lengthy delay in the alcohol and other drugs rehabilitation centre, and the lack, and there appears to be no information coming forward from our local health district. The community is again becoming concerned about the delay since the last community consultation, and I think that it's really it's not good enough. We need to, as a council, I think, start to apply some pressure to those that we need to start getting some answers. This delay is not acceptable, and we need to push on. The amount of people that have lost their life or been incarcerated since the announcement of the dollars in 2022 is just not acceptable, that we continue to lose lives and incarcerate people when there could be alternate methods for rehabilitation services. So I'm hoping that there's opportunity for us to think forward around applying some sort of questions to those that we need to get some responses. The second thing that I wanted to just mention is that I had the opportunity on Sunday afternoon to attend the School of Rural Health Campfire Yarn. And this is a really impressive event that is facilitated by Dr Emma Webster and the first year students who engage and have conversations with the local Aboriginal community. They have some traditional Johnny cakes, and they have a meal, and they sit down and talk about ways for first year medical students to understand better processes and better opportunities and culturally appropriate ways to engage with their Aboriginal patients. And I think that's a fantastic approach, and I think Emma's been doing this for 4 years now, and it continues to grow, and there's a lot more Aboriginal people from community that go along to those events, and I think hopefully it continues to grow. It's just a good way, a very informal way of doing something that's so practical that gets really good outcomes. While I was there, I got to speak to two of the first year students, and they're really excited that they're, and I'm not sure if this has been announced yet, so I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag, but there is an intent to do some fundraising for the Macquarie Homestay service, and they've got a cricket team, and they're going to host some sort of fundraising event. So I'm hoping that that goes off really well, and that council gets the opportunity to promote that event when it does come. I believe it's going to be in mid-October, but what a great opportunity for the community to get behind fundraising for the Macquarie Homestay. The other thing that I wanted to mention around sorry, I've lost my train of thought on that one, so I'll just continue on. I wanted to do also a call out to the Dubbo Regional Council and all of its committees that it's been facilitating and bringing everybody together. And I've had the opportunity to participate in the Reconciliation Action Plan Committee and workshop, and to see that coming to life, and the robust conversation and rich cultural conversation around the table about bringing that together and progressing it is really interesting. And to see that the Dubbo Regional Council's going to have an inaugural Reconciliation Action Plan that will include the Aboriginal workforce strategy is just, I really feel happy that I get the opportunity to participate in that committee with a number of other local community members. And finally, I wanted to call out that on the 3rd of September I had the opportunity to attend two significant events. One was the Multicultural Festival held at Number 2 Oval, and to see, unfortunately it was cold weather, but the event nevertheless was beautiful, and the display of multicultural performance was also beautiful. And directly after that, I had the opportunity to, after the opening of that, I got the opportunity to go across to the Dubbo annual NAIDOC ball, and the opportunity to watch the celebration of many of the local unsung heroes and call out their achievements and award them for those things it just it's so pleasing to see that this continues to grow momentum and that people continue to. I think we had over 200 people in the room, and it was just. I just again wanted to say that it was a great event, and I like to see how Dubbo recognises its First Nations culture. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Good busy month for you. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a few quick items tonight. I echo everything that Councillor Wells just said about the Alcohol and Other Drug Rehab Centre. It has got to the point of being completely beyond the joke that the state government has not found a site and announced a site and has got moving on this life-saving and life-changing rehab centre. We probably really should be moving a matter of urgency tonight to really put pressure on the local member, Dougal Saunders. I know he would be watching at home right now, so Dougal, you've got a month until the next council meeting before I move up something and do a heap of media around it. Also, roads funding. Had people calling me about can they get their road out of town sealed. The Fixing Local Roads and Fixing Country Roads programs, councillors applied for funding through those state government grant programs, and I would be hoping for lots and lots of money to be flooding into this council because we really don't have much money after the amalgamation, COVID, drought and things like that. I also note a media release Facebook post about a Milton Ulladulla bypass that costs the best part of $1 billion. Dubbo cannot get a bypass. We can't even get $75,000 from the state or federal government when they were sent letters asking them for $75,000 each for a bypass route study for Dubbo. So $1 billion for Milton Ulladulla, not 1 cent for Dubbo, is a disgrace. We really need to reserve those routes now with all of the subdivisions that are going in that northwest area of Dubbo. That's something else that the local MP, Mr Saunders, might note down while he's watching. Here's something else for him. I read in the Deniliquin Pastoral Times recently that the Denny Conservatorium of Music has been given $4.31 million to purchase a building and fit it out for the conservatorium. Deniliquin, the cultural capital of the Riverina. Dubbo loses their conservatorium on the 31st of December this year when their lease runs out on the Department of Education building unless they can find another building to move into. Mr Saunders could fix this before he goes to bed tonight and get the funding to build or buy a conservatorium in Dubbo. There's a few sites around. There's the old Dubbo High Ag plot next to North Dubbo Public School. Whack a conservatorium in there. The state government already own the land. Another thing I note is the Bell River Bridge, Duke of Wellington Bridge, just about washed away. This has been ongoing. Been watching it over a few years now. The state government really need to come to the fore and fund this as an emergency measure. Council don't have the money, so we really need the state to pay for it. We know that we've had big financial troubles post-amalgamation, so it really does fall to the feet of the state government to pay for that. And also the cross-cultural carnival that Councillor Chowdhury was really involved with recently, it was amazing how many different cultures were represented there. It was absolutely incredible that there was kids I knew from school from all different cultures, including white Australians were involved, and it was a really good night. The food was good, the company was good, and the performances were fantastic as well. So I thank Councillor Chowdhury for his involvement in getting that going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Ivey.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Firstly, just perhaps on behalf of Councillor Gough and myself, but hopefully I'm speaking for her. Look, I thank you very much to our fellow councillors and for the staff for actually enabling this regular meeting to be council meeting to be held in Wellington. It's every 4 months, and look, I know it's people have had to travel down from Dubbo to address us, but it is. Symbolically, if nothing else, I think it's fantastic, and so thank you very much for that. I wasn't here at the first one because I was COVID isolated, so I couldn't say it at the first one, but I certainly make that comment now. Secondly, just following on from Councillor Black's comments about the low-level bridge, the Duke of Wellington Bridge, yes, that's an issue. And perhaps just through you, Mr Mayor, can I ask the CEO, as I'm sure he probably will anyway, is to provide the community with an update just on what the state of play with that bridge is. I know it's being monitored with drones and other things on a regular basis, but I think it's important that the community just be kept aware of what the current an evolving situation with that erosion of the abutment would be very handy. I know a lot of people in Wellington are very interested in it, and of course rumours start. I know it's going to fall down tomorrow, and so I think regular updates from the council is what's needed there. We talk about the Dubbo, the Riverine strip there and the Green Spine, and it's fantastic. It's the sort of thing that here in central west New South Wales we must absolutely encourage all those sort of green spaces and recreation areas. And can I just say that there is still an urgent need here in Wellington too. I know we've got between Cameron Park and Pioneer Park, they're a fantastic facility. They're terrific, but of course the flood damage has really been quite severe there, so the path around Pioneer Park, some of the other surrounding areas, please can it be put in as a priority, because it is very important for this community that we get that facility. With the new pedestrian bridge across joining the two parks, which will be a great boon, there's a move, has been for a few years now, pre-COVID, to try to get a park run going in Wellington. It would really be able to start in Cameron Park, go across the bridge around Pioneer Park and up Bushrangers Creek Road. It's a terrific path, and it would be really bring something to this community to have it developed. Part of that, I know it's been on the drawing board for a while, but part of that means replacement of some of the trees that were taken down some years ago. I think there were a number of mature Currajong trees cut down to make way for a pathway, and perhaps for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure, but please can those trees be replaced. The other thing is too, just a bit of a hobby horse of mine. I think, as you know, I'm very much in favour of renewables. I think the development in this Wellington area and region is going to bring a lot of short-term employment and benefit to the employees. I must admit, extremely worried that a lot of the benefits of this renewable development aren't going to remain in Wellington. The renewables are terrific. You know, they provide very good employment for all the backpackers and the temporary people who come in and save up a lot of money to then, in the next couple of years, spend it as they drive around Australia. So that doesn't. They might spend a bit of money on accommodation or food or fuel, but that's not really much. Obviously, the landowners get very well remunerated for it. It's terrific. The planet gets saved because of renewables. The state and federal governments think that it's terrific. Look at what we've done. What do we as a Wellington community get out of it? And I think I don't think we get enough out of it, and I think already there's some moves with the two new wind farms which are proposed in this Wellington area. I think already it's seeming that Wellington is not going to get enough economic benefit out of it. And I think we as a council, over the period of this council, need to be aware of that and work towards trying to increase the residual economic benefits that this region can get from renewables. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Burns. Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of things. Last Friday night I had the privilege of attending the finalist night, actually, for the Dubbo Chamber of Commerce SJ Shooter Rhino Awards, and there was a number of businesses represented there who took home a rhino as a finalist, and I guess it just again highlights the diversity, the different types of businesses and people that were represented in the room amongst that night. It was fantastic. So they've got their finalist night coming up in a couple of weeks, so all the best to those businesses who contribute to the economy in our region. The second one was an announcement actually that was made just after our last council meeting, and many would have read and heard a bit about it, but I just want to talk about it really briefly, and it was the announcement that the 2023 Junior State Cup Touch Football Championships will be held in the city in late February next year. this was big news in two places. It was big news in Port Macquarie because they've hosted it for the last few years, and they know how big this is and how important and how disappointing it was for them to lose it. And obviously, it's massive news for the City of Dubbo to be able to gain this particular event. For people who are involved in touch football, they understand how big this is, and people who don't, to put it into some sort of context for you, we're talking about a quarter of the population of Dubbo arriving here for a period of up to 4 days, and they will be eating, they will be drinking, they'll be sleeping, they'll be spending money at every single shop you can imagine, whether it's service stations, restaurants, pubs, retail, all accommodation in the city, I understand, was booked out within a couple of hours of the announcement. There is a significant waiting list for people who are looking for accommodation around the region, in fact. We're talking parks, as far as Orange have had inquiries, Gilgandra, Warren, Wellington, the whole region is chock-a-block full. And I think this presents an opportunity for businesses to take a bit of interest. Too often do we have events in the city and they come and they go, and business owners, we talk to them about the opportunity that they might have had, and they didn't hear about it, or they didn't know about it, and they didn't take advantage of getting some money in the till. We've had reports of large supermarket chains, excuse me, that have sold out of soft drink and Powerade and water during this type of event in Port Macquarie. So this is an event that will touch every corner of our community, and I absolutely encourage not only business owners but also the residents to understand how they may be able to take advantage of this as well. Even things like Campify, to register your caravan for people to stay in whilst they're here, if that's an opportunity. Maybe pack up and leave for the weekend and rent your house out to some people as well, if that's an opportunity. But certainly for business owners to start understanding how their staffing levels need to look, and start talking to maybe even elements of council, the Chamber of Commerce, whoever it might be, to understand the opportunities. So the biggest event that I can think of that Dubbo hosted was back in 2013. There's a few groovers in the room that would have been at Triple J one night stand. We had 20,000 people here. It was one night. They were here for one night. They came out, they partied, they spent a lot of money, and they left. This is a 4-day event with up to 10,000 people, potentially more people hovering around the city. So this is a bigger opportunity again, and I just hope all business and community can get behind it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Etheridge.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to thank you, Dubbo community, to come and join that cross-cultural function, and thank you, my fellow councillors, to acknowledge that function. Also, I'd like to highlighted one of the event is coming, Dubbo Art Fair, from this weekend, from this Friday. It will be kick-off. I request all the community to come and come and check that event. And also, I would like to remind the community that double demerit is kicked off. So wherever you're traveling for, just be careful and just cautious of this wet weather. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got a couple of points. So the 10th, we all got to come to Wellington for the opening of the pedestrian bridge, which I'm excited about. I've said it already tonight that we're going to allow the people who go to the soccer, Pioneer Park's full of soccer when it's on, and get over to the business precinct of Wellington, and I'm really hoping it encourages more businesses to open up on the weekend. So thank you for council staff who organised the opening, and the Rotary sausage sizzle and the coffee. It was awesome. Thank you. I also want to do a shout out to Anne Lyons. I had the privilege to take my coffee card out to her event, which was raising money for Make-A-Wish Foundation. She raised $8,400 for local sick kids. And I had a chat to her, and she's been doing this for 14 years. And I just thought that really shows true Dubbo community spirit, that she has her place open for people to come out and they can sell. That she ran a market, she had some entertainment, her mum made 400 scones, and it was a really, really nice day. And I donated a significant portion of my takings. So the last thing I want to mention is on Tuesday I got to be a guest speaker at the Australian Institute of Company Directors. I know it was a shock to me too. Stephen Hicks from the Zoo was also the other one, and we mainly talked about at a local level the economy, and how there was a global economist there as well who was talking, but we got to talk on a local level of how our housing shortage. Stephen talked especially about tourism, and we've got a housing shortage, but then when workers come, they get stuck in hotel rooms, and then when we want tourists to come, they've got nowhere to stay. So it really is I know council's looking effectively into these problems, but we've all got to band together. We're all on the same problems, and we've got to really learn to work together to find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gough. Councillor Mann.
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And just a couple of quick ones. It's been actually quite a busy month in Wellington this month. So we've had, as Councillor Gough said, the opening of the pedestrian bridge. So that was very exciting, and I was actually blown away by the crowd that turned up from Wellington. I did a rough count, and it was at least 100 people there. And I must make mention of Mr McAllister, who, unbeknownst about the Queen's passing the day before the bridge opening, had hidden, or not hidden, but had placed a coin in the concrete of the bridge so you could see the year 2022 as part of the bridge. Thinking it would be a nice way to commemorate the year the bridge was built, and that was done a couple of months before, but obviously with the Queen's passing and then the opening the next day, that gives a bit of extra significance to that coin embedded in the bridge, and I think that coin alone will be a bit of a tourist attraction when people are in Wellington go and find that coin in the bridge. I think it's quite well done, and well done Mr McAllister for having the foresight to know that that would be a significant year for the royal family. On that same morning we had community leaders breakfast, so we had Dougald Saunders there, we had a number of councillors there, had obviously Andrew G there, the federal member as well, so that was well attended, and it was a bit of a cold, drizzly morning, but people still came along, and the opportunity for people to come along I think was really important as well. NAIDOC week, we're in NAIDOC week as we speak, so NAIDOC week we had the flag raising, or the half flag raising, because we couldn't go past half-mast for the flags, which was kind of a bit of an unusual thing to do, a flag raising to go half-mast, but that was done on Monday this week. And we also had the soft opening of the Malayan, I hope that's pronounced correctly, Malayan Cafe, which is a cafe that we've leased to the Wellington Local Aboriginal Lands Council for $1 a year down in the old Binjing building actually there, or the Binjing radio station there. So that was a significant part. Obviously the cultural component of that is all part of that hopefully that will be developed and be a fantastic area as well. So a few things happening here in Wellington, and I think this Friday as part of NAIDOC week as well, there'll be some more activities in Cameron Park, and hopefully the cafe will be well utilised there as well. So good for Wellington. Obviously the Duke of Wellington Bridge that Councillor Black mentioned as well, another thing happening in Wellington, but maybe not an exciting thing happening in Wellington, but there'll be some work done there to see what's happening. The other quick one, it's good to see a great season already starting in terms of our sporting season starting, with the weather starting to warm up a little bit. And I have checked with the CEO, and I'm not covered for it, but I did actually ask for some hamstring insurance as Mayor, because I've had the opportunity over the last month to go and play some slow pitch softball for softball season starting. Ultimate Frisbee this week. I actually got some good dirt on Councillor Black, because Dubbo Christian School went very well up there. So I said, who knows Councillor Black here? And I had about 50 kids put their hands up. So I said, come and tell me some dirt on Councillor Black. So I've got lots of good information there. It didn't take long to bring up the information. They were very forthcoming. The Junior Touch Tournament, which Councillor Wright mentioned, so we got to play a little bit of touch football there with some kids, and Dean Russell, the head of New South Wales Touch, and a few other staff members were there, risking our lives running around with kids there. And of course the Dubbo Stampede has been on the last month as well. So all good sporting events, and again those events were fantastic for Dubbo. And the last one is the Tony McGrain dinner, which hasn't been on the last couple of years. A good way to commemorate a great mayor and local member for Dubbo, but also good fundraising going to scholarships. The last couple of years they haven't had to be able to do that due to COVID, obviously, but that was held again this year. Wes Mars was the guest speaker at that, so that was a really well-attended function, and they raised a lot of money for the next scholarship. So very busy month, and great to see lots of things happening out in the community, but I think as the weather warms up and hopefully the rain dies down a little bit, we'll see a lot more activities there. So thank you for that, councillors. There's no further items for consideration at the ordinary council meeting for September, so I declare the meeting closed at 7:45 p.m. Web streaming has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance to the people in the gallery. Thank you for people that are attending online, and thank you, Councillor Mann, for attending online as well. Thank you.